But I shall not anticipate the reader with further descriptions of this kind, because I reserve them for a greater work, which is now almost ready for the press, containing a general description of this empire, from its first erection through a long series of princes, with a particular account of their wars and politics, laws, learning, and religion, their plants and animals, their peculiar manners and customs, with other matters very curious and useful. My chief design at present being only to relate such events and transactions as happened to the public or to myself during a residence of about 9 months in that empire. One morning, about a fortnight after I had obtained my liberty, Will Russell, principal secretary as they style him, for private affairs, came to my house attended only by one servant. He ordered his coach to wait at a distance, and desired I would give him an hour's audience, which I readily consented to, on account of his quality and personal merits, as well as of the many good offices he had done me during my solicitations at court. I offered to lie down, that he might the more conveniently reach my ear, but he chose rather to let me hold him in my hand during our conversation. He began with compliments on my library, said he might pretend to some merit in it, but however, added that if it had not been for the present situation of things at court, perhaps I might not have obtained it so soon. For, said he, as flourishing a condition as we may appear to be in to foreigners, we labor under two mighty evils, a violent faction at home, and the danger of an invasion by a most potent enemy from abroad. As to the first, you are to understand that for about 70 moons past there have been two struggling parties in this empire, under the names of Tramixen and Slamixen, from the high and low heels of their shoes, by which they distinguish themselves. It is alleged indeed that the high heels are most agreeable to our ancient constitution. But however this be, His Majesty has determined to make use only of low heels in the administration of the government and all offices in the gift of the crown. As you cannot but observe, and particularly that His Majesty's imperial heels are lower at least by a drawer than any of his court. Drawer is a measure about the 14th part of an inch. The animosities between these two parties run so high that they will neither eat nor drink nor talk to each other. We compute the Tramixen, or high heels, to exceed us in number, but the power is wholly in our side. We apprehend His Imperial Highness, the heir to the crown, to have some tendency towards the high heels. At least, we can plainly discover that one of his heels is higher than the other, which gives him a hobble in his gait. Now, in the midst of these intestine disquiets, we are threatened with an invasion from the island of Blefuscu, which is the other great empire of the universe, almost as large and powerful as this of His Majesty. For as to what we have heard you affirm, that there are other kingdoms and states in the world inhabited by human creatures as large as yourself, our philosophers are in much doubt, and would rather conjecture that you dropped from the moon, or one of the stars, because it is certain that 100 mortals of your bulk would in a short time destroy all fruits and cattle of His Majesty's dominions. Besides, our histories of 6,000 moons make no mention of any other regions than the two great empires of Lilliput and Blefuscu, which two mighty powers have, as I was going to tell you, been engaged in a most obstinate war for 36 moons past. It began upon the following occasion. It is allowed on all hands that the primitive way of breaking eggs before we eat them was upon the larger end. But His present Majesty's grandfather, while he was a boy, going to eat an egg, and breaking it according to the ancient practice, happened to cut one of his fingers. whereupon the emperor, his father, published an edict commanding all his subjects, upon great penalties, to break the smaller end of their eggs. The people so highly resented this law that our histories tell us there have been 6 rebellions raised on that account, wherein one emperor lost his life and another his crown. These civil commotions were constantly fomented by the monarchs of Blefuscu, and when they were quelled, the exiles always fled for refuge to that empire. And now let's sum up, and we start from when Reld Russell, who was the principal secretary or the government official, came to see Gulliver. He told him about the emperor. He started talking about the invasion from the island of Blefuscu, and he said that inside the country, inside Lilliput, there are two parties. Um, the rebel groups exist because the kingdom is divided into two parties called the Tramixen and the Slamixen. The people in the two parties are distinguished by their heights of their heels. They are high-heeled and low-heeled people. Russell continues telling Gulliver that the current emperor only wants to employ the low-heeled Slamixen in his administrations of the government, and the emperor himself has lower heels than all of his officials, but his higher, or the crown prince, um, has one heel higher than the other, which makes him walk in a strange way. And Russell continues that the philosophers in his country don't believe Gulliver, or everyone, not only philosophers, all people of Lilliput don't believe Gulliver when he said that there are other countries in the world, because they think that the only two empires of the universe are Lilliput and Blefuscu. And he said that the philosophers of Lilliput think that Gulliver came or dropped from the moon or from a star. Roald Russell continues telling Gulliver about the history of the two empires, and he told Gulliver about the reason behind the war. He said that long time ago the war started after the emperor, who's the grandfather of the current emperor, ordered all people or all Lilliputians to break their eggs on the small end first, because the ancient practice of breaking the egg was breaking the starting from the big end. But the emperor wanted to change this custom, and this was because his son cut his finger while breaking the egg in the ancient, or according to the ancient practice. But the Lilliputians rejected this law, and they fought against this, which divided the country into two parts. And the rebellions or the 6 rebellions, were supported by the monarchs of Blefuscu, or the king of Blefuscu, and they went there to that kingdom, and they became refugees there.